As we mentioned, the euphotic zone in the lake, whether we're talking about the littoral zone or the limnetic zone, is dominated by plankton. Two major groups of plankton, the phytoplankton and the zooplankton. The phytoplankton, of course, are the green plants. And just so you understand the magnitude of the effects of phytoplankton, it's estimated that most of the oxygen on the surface of the earth is produced by phytoplankton, obviously not only in lakes, but in oceans as well. This is a major, major source of energy for all food chains in all the waters of the world. The phytoplankton are so complex and so numerous, these small green microscopic plants that form the basis of the food chain, that I couldn't even begin to indicate to you all of the types of organisms that belong here. But basically I can tell you this. Phytoplankton, for the most part, as we've talked about previously, are algae. And for the most part, it includes a few major groups. The green algae, that are often dominant, the blue-green algae. Some of those are rather unique, nitrogen-fixing, as we've talked about previously. The diatoms, belonging to the Basilaria phyceae, and if I had to pick one group in either marine or freshwater habitats that is the most significant, it is the diatoms. And to a lesser extent, the dinoflagellates, and to some extent the red algae. The zooplankton, of course, are the group that feed on the phytoplankton, small microscopic animals at the mercy of the current. The zooplankton fall primarily into four major groups. The first of those are the brachiopods. The best known of those are Daphnia or the water fleas. We've mentioned them before. The second major group are the copepods. These include a rather unusual type of organism called cyclops, one eye spot, red eye, very obvious under the microscope. Third, the rotifers. Lower down as far as evolution is concerned in the animal kingdom, but they can comprise a major portion of the zooplankton population. And finally, the protozoans, the smallest of the zooplankton. Some of them submicroscopic, they are so tiny. All of them together, whether we're talking about lakes that dominate in Daphnia or copepods or what have you, all of them together comprise the bulk of animal life that we refer to as the zooplankton. What is their significance? Well, the zooplankton, of course, as we've talked about previously, filled that second major area in the food chain. The primary producers are dominantly the phytoplankton. Yes, the macrophytes or the periphyton can play a role, but it's the phytoplankton that dominate. And phytoplankton, although they are fed on by other organisms, we know, for example, in marine habitats that there are whales and certain types of sharks that feed directly on phytoplankton. For the most part, those phytoplankton are fed upon by the zooplankton. They are the dominant primary consumers in lakes and in oceans. And of course, further up the food chain, the zooplankton are fed on by small fish, those fed on by larger fish. In other words, we wouldn't have the production of fish in lakes, etc., if it weren't for the major production of plankton, phyto and zoo.